Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Historyonic channel. After a long hiatus, we're back in action. It'll be a little different. I'm doing some videos, Hannah's doing some videos. We're gonna try to live stream on Twitch together so that we're all hanging out. We can all ask questions, we can all do whatever shenanigans happen. I don't know. We'll be on Twitch, live streaming soon. We'll keep you guys updated. If you want those updates, follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok. We're all over. So all of those will be down here if you are so inclined. Okay. Today's topic starts with a meme. It is this one. I found it when it was shared by Kara Cooney, who is an Egyptologist currently with UCLA and is one of my all-time favorite people, and it's got some stuff to unpack, so without further ado, we're going to talk about it. You may or may not have seen a tweet with similar verbiage and theme recently, and you may or may not see some similarities. Let's dig in. Ramesses II. Let's talk about Ramesses II. Full disclosure, he's one of my least favorite historical people ever. I have a list of people I got beef with. He's way up there on that list. Let me elaborate. He was pharaoh during one of the most, not one of, the most powerful and influential period of Egyptian history. Great time to be Egyptian. We're talking like the Valley of the Kings, and we're talking Hatshepsut, and good things, just good things happen in the New Kingdom. But not Ramesses. So, he ruled from, give or take, 1279 BC to 1213. Yeah, 1279 to 1213 BCE. Which is like 66 years, if you're counting. That is a long-ass time to be pharaoh. It's a long time to be anything, really. He was old as hell. He died at 90, which was almost unheard of for Egyptians. The lifespan of his people was nowhere near that, so there could have been 2 or 3 generations, probably 3 generations of people who only knew Ramesses as pharaoh. If you're gonna say you're a god living longer than anybody else, it does play to your hand, not gonna lie. My beef with Ramesses. He's one vain, narcissistic... Keep it clean. I'll give you an example. This beautifully illustrates the kind of man we are speaking about when we talk about Ramesses II. Did I mention he called himself Ramesses the Great? He built a temple. Pretty common, pharaohs build temples. It happens. Abu Simbel was built in honor of 3 Egyptian gods. You've got Ta, you've got Amun, and you've got Ra-Horekti. Remember this one, okay? So this temple was built with 4 colossal statues of Ramesses. Because who else, right? Sitting at the entrance to the temple. I believe it was a solstice temple, so there would have been like an entrance that, like on a solstice, at the exact right time, light would have come in and illuminated this chamber full of beautiful hieroglyphs praising the gods slash Ramesses. The icing on the cake. Look at this picture. So you've got the 4 statues of Ramesses, and right there in the middle above the door, that little figure there is Ra-Horekti. So there's the god, making a minor appearance on the front of the temple that is supposedly built, not for Ramesses, but for Ra-Horekti. And he's holding 2 hieroglyphs, Usr and Mat. Now these are both common religious icons, however, if you read them in the right order, you will see Usr Mat Re. Usr Mat Re was another royal name of Ramesses II. So, Is it actually the image of the god Ra-Rekti, or is it Ramses writing his name on the temple? That's some narcissistic stuff. Honor the gods by honoring me first. Ew. We covered Ramses. Not this guy. Not this guy. Most certainly not this guy. This one. This is his mummy. Still in good shape. Which, you know, looks great for his age. You can tell he dyed his hair red. Like a lot. You know, more power to him. On to the next part of our story here. Kadesh. What is a Kadesh, you may ask? Great question. Kadesh was a settlement on the border of Egypt and the Egyptian Empire and the Hittite Empire. At this point in time, it is not considered Egyptian territory. It's Hittite territory. The Hittites have been there for like a long-ass time. Kadesh, Hittite settlement. And here's the thing, though. It had been centuries of kind of tense relations and conflict on the border. Because that's what happens, I guess, when you have two empires bordering each other. Kadesh was a convenient trade stop on a major trading route, which means whoever had it had the advantage of trade, or easier trade anyway. There had been letters from the Hittites to the pharaoh Akhenaten, which we can talk about later. I've kind of talked about him like a little bit before. In relation to Nefertiti, the Hittites informed him, like, this is ours, step off. Then the general Horemheb, who took the throne after Tutankhamun died, which again, we kind of talked about, waves his magic wand, I don't know, and secures the Egyptian border. But he doesn't really address the issue with Kadesh and the Hittites. Fast forward, Ramses' father, Seti I, was also considered like a monument among pharaohs. He was a conqueror of sorts. He was trying to reclaim provinces and territories that had been part of the Egyptian Empire in the Thutmose period, trying to take back stuff that he had that wasn't really his to begin with. And he briefly gets a hold on Kadesh. It quickly slips away again, back to the Hittites. And then Muwatalli II, Muwatalli II becomes king of Kadesh. He and his compatriots, his squad, I don't know, his friends, he makes trips into Egypt. So do other Hittites. The record disagrees on whether those were peaceful, whether they were inquisitions. I don't know what to say. Depends on who you talk to, right? Which brings us right up to the Battle of Kadesh. Here we go. Play-by-play. So the Battle of Kadesh is considered the largest chariot versus chariot battle to take place in history. Ramses takes four divisions of soldiers. He's got probably 2,000 chariots and 20,000 men between these four divisions. And he's feeling confident. He is so confident that he and his division outpaced the rest. So his division was called the Amun division. He named all of them after gods. So you had the Amun division, the Ptah division, the Re division, and the Seth division. Okay, so he's with the Amun division. They outpace Ptah, Re, Seth, and they think they have it covered with probably like 500 chariots, 5,000 men. Before they get to Kadesh, they intercept, which is a really fancy word for kidnap, two Bedouin men and tell them that they are demanding information on the Hittite army. The Bedouin men had, in fact, been paid by the Hittites to lie. You know, just spy stuff. The two spies feed them misinformation. They tell Ramses that the Hittite army is further away in Amura. Remember that name? That the Hittite army is in Amura. So Kadesh is going to be vulnerable. Ramses is thinking, yes, easy. The Hittite army was, in fact, waiting for them to arrive at Kadesh. And this army, the Egyptians were in trouble. All of their men put together, Mutwalli had managed to summon up between his armies and allied armies approximately 37,000 men and 3,500 chariots. So we're talking an army at least 1.5 times the size of the Egyptian army. Not a great situation. So Ramses writes, or has his scribe write, because best guess is Ramses was illiterate, could not read or write, and all of his work was done by scribes, not uncommon for pharaohs. Writes the poem of Pentar. Someone knows why it's called that, but it's not me. And there's a lot of documenting which troops are moving when, how things are progressing, and we get to this beautiful little point in time where the Amu division reaches Kadesh, sets up camp, and is ambushed like right away by the Hittites. They'd been fed misinformation, so they were easy pickings. And Ramses somehow ends up separated from his troops and his bodyguards, and he has a long, melodramatic, I was alone, there were no generals, there were no chariots, I was in the hands of my enemies, kind of nonsense. Not nonsense, I guess, he was in danger. He goes on and on about being alone and praying to Ra for the power to fight off his enemies and to return to his troops. Somehow, he manages to get back to his squad. While this is going on, the Ray division is getting closer, and the Hittite army swipes them. They are caught off guard, also because they didn't think they were anywhere near the battle yet, but the Hittites knew they were coming. So they're scattered. Some of them are able to run ahead and catch up with the Amun division and fortify that. Not all of them, though. The rest either died, ran away, or maybe joined the Hittites. It's a possibility. The Hittites are, at this point, looting the camp that the Egyptians had set up because the Amun division and what little of the Ray division has joined them have retreated. And when the Hittites have their guard down because they're picking through all of the Egyptians' cool stuff, they attack again. The Egyptians do. The Hittites get ready to retaliate against the Amun division for attacking them. And all of a sudden, while the Hittite troops are coming out, the Egyptian troops get foreign aid. Troops from Amuru, remember that, right? Come in and reinforce Ramesses' army. Amuru is kind of a extension of the Hittite Empire, I guess. Rocky relationship. In this particular instance, they helped the Egyptians. I personally don't know why, but they send aid to Ramses. The Hittites clash with the Amuru army and the Egyptian army, and it kind of comes out a draw. Finally, the Ptah division shows up. With the Ptah, the Amun, and a little bit of the Ray division, Ramesses leads 6 charges against the Hittites and has them almost surrounded. Almost. Some of the Hittite soldiers run. They try to swim across the nearby river to get away. Some of them make it, some of them drown. So the Hittites retreat, but Egypt also realizes that it's lost enough men, it does not have the ability to continue this fight, and they are going to be squashed the pharaoh is going to be killed by the Hittites if they don't make a speedy retreat. So the Hittite army runs, so does the Egyptian army. But they both claim victory over the battle at Kadesh. So let's talk about the aftermath. The Hittites keep Kadesh. Egypt does not get that territory back. So if the purpose of going to Kadesh was to conquer Kadesh, and you did not, that is not, in fact, a victory. Amur returns to the favor of the Hittite Empire. There is still conflict over the stretches of land and the territories between the Egyptian and Hittite empires. That fighting continues, just not at Kadesh. 15 years after the battle at Kadesh, where Ramses barely got out with his life, he finally agrees to sign a peace treaty with the new king of Kadesh, who is Hattusili III. And their scribes take down all of these agreements where Egypt shall not try to take any territory that belongs to the Hittites, and the Hittites shall not try to take any territory that belongs to the Egyptians. There will be an end to the fighting at the border. No more fighting. And this agreement is taken down onto silver tablets, one in Egyptian, one in Hittite, and both kings are given their silver tablets, kind of sealing this peace treaty. It's considered the first peace treaty in all of history, which is a cool thing. There is a copy of it hanging on the wall of the United Nations headquarters. There is a clay tablet with the Hittite inscription that survives in the Istanbul Archaeological Museum, and I believe there's a copy in Berlin as well. Sometimes it's called the Egyptian-Hittite Treaty, sometimes it's called the Silver Treaty or the Eternal Treaty, because that did fairly well mark the end of conflict between the two empires. Egypt was able to share some of its agricultural knowledge with the Hittites, which advanced their agricultural technologies. The Hittites were able to share some of their weaponry technology with the Egyptians, building up the Egyptian army. So there was a beneficial exchange of information between the two, and that trade route was made easier, I guess, because it was not a war zone. I don't know. Furthermore, Ramses marries a Hittite princess and takes her to be among his royal wives. That'll help with any lines, right? Then Ramses turns around and builds pylons, which are like the billboards of the ancient world. He builds them anywhere important, really. He builds them in Luxor, I believe at the Karnak temple. He makes sure that his Abu Simbel temple has a depiction of this scene that he promotes that is his victory at the Battle of Kadesh. It's this. There he is, doing the thing that he didn't actually do. So what does this tell us about Ramses? The same man who builds temples to his gods but makes himself more prominent, makes his alleged victory more important than the accomplishments he actually did manage. He did not win at Kadesh. In any remote sense. He got out alive. He could have made the point of the peace treaty. That was a huge deal that had not happened before. That is an accomplishment that should be celebrated. Not what he wanted to focus on. He wanted to celebrate brute force and a battle victory that he did not attain. So what is our takeaway here? Number one, history doesn't remember every lie, but it does remember the big ones. Number two, the bigger the lie, the bigger the record. Number three, truth can be verified. So, think on it. Love you. As always, be kind to everyone. Learn something new. I love you guys. Mwah. I'll see y'all later.